You were told you were waking up, that your third eye was opening, that your vibration was rising, that you were finally ascending. But what if I told you, you never chose this path? What if your awakening wasn't a calling, but a program? Not one designed to empower you, but to hijack your attention under the illusion of freedom. This is the uncomfortable truth behind most New Age spirituality. It didn't liberate your soul. It rebranded your conditioning. They told you to let go of ego, but they sold you identities wrapped in cosmic language. They told you to surrender, but only to systems that they defined. They told you everything happens for a reason, so you wouldn't question what's being done to you. And somewhere in that glow of crystals, incense, and soft affirmations, you stopped feeling your body. You bypassed your rage. You silenced your intuition. You traded your fire for peace. But the soul never wanted peace. It wanted truth. And truth isn't always calm. It's disruptive. It's inconvenient. It burns. So ask yourself, was this really your awakening? Or were you ushered into a belief system so polished, so seductive, that it made you forget who you were before spirituality became your identity? Because here's the thing, real awakening is violent, not in action, but in its clarity. It strips, it exposes, it shatters the illusion of control. But what you were sold, that was aesthetic, safe, marketable. You were handed a version of spirituality that didn't threaten the system. It fed it. Because while you were busy aligning your chakras, you stopped questioning authority. You stopped trusting your instincts. You became love and light, while your sovereignty was being rewritten in the background. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's a pattern, and it started decades ago, when ancient teachings were extracted, simplified, diluted, then packaged into books, courses, apps, and personalities. The result? A spiritual marketplace that looks like evolution, but functions like mental colonization. And here's the punchline. They didn't want you asleep. They wanted you half awake, just conscious enough to be obsessed with growth, but too disoriented to ever arrive. So instead of questioning the grid, you customized your crystal grid. Instead of healing your trauma, you labeled it past life karma. Instead of reclaiming your body, you escaped it in astral projection. And all the while, your soul watched quietly, waiting for you to realize you've been awakened into a simulation, one that uses your longing against you. Your desire for truth as a leash, your pain as a sales funnel. The real awakening, that comes when you burn all of it down. It didn't start with Instagram gurus, or TikTok witches, or the crystal aisle at your local store. It started decades ago, when real spiritual teachings were extracted from their roots, repackaged, and sold to a society hungry for meaning but unwilling to sit in discomfort. What used to be initiation became branding. What was once earned through silence, hardship, and embodiment was turned into a weekend workshop and a certification badge. You think you're learning ancient wisdom, but you're consuming spiritual fast food. Why? Because the system saw the shift coming. They knew people were waking up. They saw the cracks forming in the collective narrative. So instead of trying to keep you asleep, they built you a dream filled with glossy tarot cards, buzzword meditations, pastel content on how to raise your frequency, endless healing loops with no completion, and they called it spiritual awakening. But the real agenda, keep you in motion but never in power, keep you seeking but never arriving. So you became obsessed with fixing yourself. Shadow work, inner child healing, karmic contracts, soul ties, mirror work, quantum leaping, all while forgetting the most crucial truth. You were never broken. The system just taught you to believe that healing was endless, because as long as you're healing, you're not acting, you're not creating, you're not embodying, you're not building the new world. You're trapped in a loop of self-analysis, spiritual guilt, and identity addiction. And it's not your fault, because this was designed. You weren't just given access to teachings, you were handed narratives. Soft-spoken, polished, well-lit influencers became the new clergy. Their message: follow your bliss, raise your vibe, let the universe guide you. But the real message underneath: stay soft, stay vague, stay passive. And what did you lose in the process? Your fire, your instinct, your resistance, your inner no, your raw, embodied self. Because rage isn't marketable, clarity doesn't sell well. A soul in sovereignty has no use for their products. So they taught you love and light as a script. They taught you non-attachment as avoidance. They rebranded numbness as higher vibration. And worst of all, they convinced you that spiritual discomfort was your fault, instead of a signal that something's deeply wrong with what you've been taught. So here's the real question. What if your awakening wasn't awakening at all, but a more sophisticated form of sleep? Look closely. You didn't awaken. You were activated, not by ancient forces, but by new systems with old intentions. Because real awakening threatens control. But managed awakening, that keeps you docile while making you feel powerful. This is the genius of the hijack. You were given practices that calm your nervous system, but never sharpen your will. You were told to surrender to the universe, but never taught how to command your own field. You were encouraged to manifest love, money, healing, but warned never to question the structures that shaped your pain in the first place. And you bought in, because it felt good, because it looked peaceful, because it was safer than facing the raw truth. This was never your path. It was scripted for you. From the mantras, to the music, to the types of books you read, to the spiritual rules you were expected to follow, none of it was yours. You were sold a new cage with better branding. So what now? You stop consuming. You start remembering. You stop surrendering to every cosmic sign and start choosing with precision. You stop healing your shadow for the 1000th time and start acting from your wholeness. Because this is the moment of rupture, where you break the spell, where you realize your soul didn't come here to be gentle. It came here to cut through noise. That's what true awakening feels like. Not bliss, not love, not floaty vibrations. It feels like anger, like grief, like fire ripping through everything that isn't yours. It feels like a soul remembering its name after lifetimes of being told it was just energy. It feels like sovereignty. So if you're feeling rage, don't run. That rage is sacred. That fire is your compass. It's pointing you back to yourself, to the version of you that never agreed to this script, to the awareness that lives beyond teachings, trends, and higher timelines. And here's the truth they'll never put on a vision board. Awakening isn't a glow up, it's a burn down. Subscribe and hit the bell. If this shook you, it's because some part of you was already awake. I'm just the mirror. So now I ask you, what spiritual belief are you ready to question? Even if it means everything you followed collapses behind it, drop it in the comments. That's where real freedom begins. True awakening doesn't require a guru. It doesn't need a course, a certification, or a content funnel. It doesn't even need a language, because real awakening begins in silence. The kind of silence that doesn't soothe, the kind that exposes. It starts when the mantras stop working, when the affirmations sound fake, when the incense smells like distraction. It starts when you sit with the part of yourself that never wanted any of this, and ask, what part of me agreed to be hijacked? That's where your power is. Because the system didn't steal your soul. It tricked you into outsourcing it, piece by piece. You gave your body to yoga instructors. You gave your mind to mindset coaches. You gave your heart to soft-spoken strangers in white linen telling you everything is love. And all the while, the real you waited. Raw, instinctive, non-aesthetic, wild. It's not that you don't know who you are. It's that you were taught to fear who you are without the spiritual filters. So the journey back? It's not a return to light. It's a return to clarity. Not the kind that fits into posts or quotes, but the kind that lives in your spine, your gut, your no, your silence when the world screams for performance. Because here's the truth. You don't need more answers. You need to listen to the voice that speaks before the question even forms. You've heard it before, in the still moments, in the nights you almost left everything, in the gut feeling that said, "This isn't it." That voice, it never lied. It never sold anything. It never needed likes, validation, or spiritual aesthetics. It just waited for you to remember that you were never meant to ascend out of your body. You were meant to descend fully into it, into your rhythm, your resistance, your refusal to conform to any system, even one dressed in light. That's when awakening becomes real, not because it's beautiful, but because it's yours. Because when you stop running toward higher timelines and start standing in your own timeline, the one your soul etched into your bones, you don't rise above life, you transmit through it. Every word you speak vibrates truth. Every move you make is embodied choice. Every breath you take isn't escape, it's integration. And the people around you, they feel it. Not because you're preaching, but because you're real. And in this world, real is the rarest frequency. There's a lie hiding inside modern spirituality, one so subtle, so coated in light and love, most never see it. You were taught to obey again, just in a different costume. It didn't come with commandments this time. It came with downloads, channeled messages, divine timing, and you're exactly where you need to be. Sounds peaceful, right? But peel back the softness, and you'll find submission. You stopped questioning red flags because everything is a lesson. You ignored your gut because your shadow was being triggered. You swallowed discomfort because your soul signed up for this. This isn't growth, it's gaslighting with incense. And the worst part? It feels like progress because you're doing the work, because you've read the books, because you journal your emotions and burn sage afterward. But deep inside, something's off, and you know it. You know when your voice isn't really yours. You know when your intuition is being edited through a spiritual lens you didn't create. You know when your rage is being spiritualized instead of respected, because the soul doesn't want to be saved, it wants to be restored. And restoration doesn't come from following rules, even if they're wrapped in the universe's name. It comes from unlearning obedience. Obedience to systems, to gurus, to guides, to groupthink masked as collective awakening. You see it now, don't you? The endless loops, the spiritual bypassing, the addiction to downloads that never get embodied, the promises of 5D timelines while you're still denying your 3D pain. That's not transcendence, that's escapism with branding. So what does real authority feel like? It's quiet, it doesn't shout, it doesn't need an audience, it just knows. It's the moment you walk out of a workshop mid-session because your body said no. It's when you stop apologizing for your fire. It's when you let yourself be complicated instead of performing clarity for approval. You stop asking for permission. You stop asking for signs. You stop asking altars for answers your blood already knows. Because your soul didn't come here to be loved by the spiritual community. It came here to be free. And freedom starts the moment you realize you are not here to follow energy. You are here to emit it. Not because a spirit guide told you to, not because your chart said it's the right time, but because your entire being says, "This is mine." That's the authority they couldn't sell you, so they tried to make you forget it. You didn't come here to be safe. You didn't come here to be high vibe. You didn't come here to fit into the gentle glow of mass market enlightenment. You came here to remember, not who they told you you were, but who you were before they gave it a name, before empath, before starseed, before healer, lightworker, or old soul. Who were you before the labels? That's the real awakening, the one that doesn't trend, the one that doesn't sell, the one that doesn't look cute on a vision board. It doesn't glitter, it grinds, it confronts you at 3 a.m. and says, "This isn't truth, burn it," because your soul remembers. It remembers what's real and what's rehearsed. It remembers the sound of its own voice before it got drowned in spiritual noise. It remembers its rhythm before it was sedated by someone else's path. And the moment you stop chasing alignment and start creating from your own center, you become dangerous, because you no longer need validation. You no longer need community to reflect your worth. You no longer need a sign, a sync, or a ceremony. You just need your own signal, clean, unedited, fully embodied. That's when the simulation breaks, because now you're not just awake, you're free, not floating, not escaping, but rooted in your body, in your yes, in your no, in your truth, even when no one claps. And the spiritual system, it can't hold people like that. It can only hold followers. So be the one who doesn't follow. Be the one who remembers, not just for yourself, but because someone out there is still trapped in the glow, thinking it's the light. Let your awakening be the torch that burns through the illusion. Because in a world of false prophets and pretty lies, the most rebellious thing you can do is be real. No filter, no brand, no performance, just presence. And now, I leave you with this. What part of your spiritual identity are you finally ready to let die, so something honest can be born in its place? Drop it in the comments. The moment you name it, you break its spell. And if this resonated, go watch the next video. Not to learn more, but to unlearn deeper. We're not here to escape the matrix. We're here to recode it.